Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Burdick, the Reading Coach. Welcome to Gear Up for Science 2024 On-Demand Parent Event. We are so glad that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to join us in this on-demand event. In just a few moments, you are going to complete a science activity with your child and your child's grade team teachers. We do ask that all science experiments for the Gear Up for Science 2024 be completed with adult supervision. Now, as you complete that science activity, I want you to listen and think about the vocabulary words that are being shared by your grade team teachers. Academic vocabulary simply means vocabulary specific to content like reading, writing, science, or math. As your child grows and learns, academic vocabulary is so very important to their academic success. In the materials bag that your child brought home, you will find a pamphlet that actually gives you ideas in which to build your child's academic and regular, just everyday vocabulary. Some of those ideas are as simple as just talking through everyday activities such as washing the dishes, cooking, going shopping, even coming home from school. What kinds of things can we say that will help build our students' vocabulary? Now, let's get back to that science activity. Ready, set, let's do some science.
Welcome to our virtual science night. If you do not know me, I am Miss Vargas, and so this is a video for our gifted students. However, if you are at home, as long as you have that adult supervision with you, you can also do this with any family members. If you have aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters at home, you can all do this project together. So we're going to open up our bag. Just make sure you have that parent supervision with you. And when you do, you're going to see all of our materials in here. So the first thing you're going to see, parents, is this vocabulary, which is going to help kind of build that vocabulary at home both tonight and other nights, that you guys can do activities together to help build that academic vocabulary that we want our students using. So you can put that to the side, and we are going to also use our other two sheets that you will see in here. So the first one is going to be our candy cane experiment sheet. This is what you will need a pencil to fill out, because this is what we're going to be doing. And then in that second sheet that you will see in there is something that we're going to go over and refer to during this experiment. It gives you a little bit more background information on that physical versus chemical changes, which is what we're going to be looking for with this experiment. So once we start our experiment, I'll go over the things that we're going to need to look for so that we know what changes are happening in our experiment. Okay, once you take that out, you will also see your can of Sprite, your 3 clear cups, and you will also have 4 candy canes. Now, we are only going to actually use 3 for our experiment, so that extra one, it's up to you and your family to decide if you want to eat that extra one, because we're not going to eat our other supplies. Or if you want to extend your experiment, then you can get a 4th cup at home and you can try a different liquid than what we're going to do and let me know what happens. So you can just put that extra one to the side for now. Okay, once we are done, before we start our experiment, we need to kind of look at our experiment sheet. So you're going to need a pencil to write with, and you're going to look at what we're looking for in this experiment. So you're going to take your Sprite, you're going to take warm water, and you're going to take cold water, and we're going to put our candy canes in them in these clear cups so that we can see what changes happen. But before we do that, we need to always make a hypothesis. So we need to know what changes are we looking for. So that's why we're going to go look at this sheet before we make our hypothesis, so we know what changes we need to be on the lookout for. So if it is a physical change, that means that matter may change form, but there's going to be no chemical reaction and no new substance that's coming off of our change. So basically what we're looking is either a change in size or shape. It might change states of matter. It might be something you can reverse. So For example, if I cut a piece of paper, I can put a piece of tape on it and tape it back together. That was just a physical change. I didn't actually do anything to the paper. So those would be our physical changes that we want to be looking for. So for our chemical changes, what we're actually going to be looking for is any new substance forming through a reaction. So some of those reactions might be a color change, if there's bubbling and fizzing to show that gas being created, if it's producing any new odors or any heat coming off of it. So those are going to be yours to look at while you're doing your experiment. But now that we know what we're looking for, we can make our hypothesis. So if you go back to this sheet with your pencil, you're going to think about what changes might happen to our candy canes, whether they're physical or chemical, when we put them in warm water, when we put them in cold water, and when we put them in our Sprite. So make that hypothesis, and why do you think that that's going to happen? If you need to pause our video to write down your hypothesis, you can do that right now. After you are done with your hypothesis, you're also going to talk about what you're noticing with your senses. So thinking about those 5 senses. Now we're not going to taste it right now. However, if you've tasted a candy cane, you would know what it tastes like. You're going to write all of those things that you're noticing down. So you can open up your candy canes and kind of talk about maybe what is the texture of it, what does it look like, thinking about, does it have very much smell, which actually, if you notice, these candy canes don't have a huge peppermint smell. I've had some that have like a super strong smell, so it's very, very light. And you're gonna also think about that with your water. So what does the cold water feel like? What does the warm water feel like? Again, make sure you are being careful with that warm water. And then also, what does your Sprite feel like? So if you didn't put it in the fridge, it should be kind of a room temperature. It's not gonna be cold or hot. So thinking about all those things before our experiment. And then once you've done all of that, you're gonna put your liquids in, and then we're gonna start our timer to see those changes. So let's go over and put our liquids into our cups. All right, so for your water, you're gonna take your 2 cups over to the sink. So you're gonna use that cold water you can just use right from your tap, and we're gonna fill them about halfway. They don't need to be exact. Now, if you have warm water from your tap, you can just let it run as long as your parents are checking the temperature of the water for safety, then they can put it about halfway. If for some reason it's not getting warm enough in your house, then you can always do what we did, use a different microwave safe cup and heat it up in the microwave a little bit till it's about a little bit warmer than room temperature. All right, so we're gonna just do that about halfway. And then we're gonna go back to put our Sprite in our cup. All right, and then you're gonna open up your Sprite can, and same thing, we're gonna kind of fill it about halfway, which means you're not gonna use the full can of Sprite, which means with parent permission, you can drink the other half of the can, but we're gonna put it to the side. All right, you will need either a stopwatch or a timer. You can use, if you have an Alexa at home, you can use her for a timer, or you can just use your phone like I am about to do. So you're gonna just wanna have that stopwatch on so that you can see, even though we're gonna do it for 10 minutes, we're gonna kind of stop at some key points to kind of see any changes that are happening, because we're gonna document those changes on our data chart. So what we're looking for is the time it takes that big solid red stripe. So if you see ours, they have the little thin stripes and the big one. We're looking for that big one to disappear, but you can look and see if those small ones disappear too. And then also, what does it look like after those 10 minutes? And did the candy cane fully dissolve? Now, I'm gonna give you a little hint. It's probably not gonna fully dissolve in any of them in 10 minutes. You might need to keep it going a little bit longer, but you'll see how much of something might have dissolved in those 10 minutes. All right, so we're gonna make sure I have my stopwatch ready to go so I can look at the time. And we're gonna just drop all 3 in all at once, and then we'll check in a couple minutes. Ready? And go. We're at about 7.5 to 8 minutes. If you've been watching your candy canes, this is our cold water. As we can see, the little stripes have disappeared, but we still have those solid ones. And it's still pretty clear that I can see my candy cane. Whereas our soda, it's getting murkier as that coloring is coming off, but I can still kind of see a stripe. But if you notice those bubbles and gas being released coming up, and then our warm water is definitely taking a lot of it off, and you can see it all kind of gathering at the bottom, and it's almost turned the whole candy cane red as it melts back into it. So let's look again in our 10-minute mark. All right, we're just at about our 10-minute mark, so we are gonna stop and make sure we're filling out our data chart to see. If you noticed when your stripes disappeared, you should have been taking note of that along the way. We didn't stop every minute for you guys because you're doing it at home. But we didn't give you these extra cups, but you should have an extra cup at home, or you can just dump the water in the sink. But we're gonna kind of dump our water out just so we can make sure we see what the actual candy cane looks like now that we're done. Okay, so this was our cold water. And as we can kind of see, there is some dissolving that happened and those colors kind of melted together, but the stripe didn't really fully disappear in our cold water. And then if we look at our Sprite, it's still bubbling. So we know that chemical change took place here. And this one, it got a lot smaller. So we have that one solid candy cane still. You can see the difference in size. So although, yes, our cold water got smaller, this one was shrinking a lot. So if you keep that in there and you don't stop at 10 minutes, my best bet would be that that might be the first one to fully dissolve into the liquid. And then if we look at our warm water, we see all that color kind of came off. And then that also dissolved a lot. So maybe that one might be the winner. It might vary based on how warm your water was though. So think about those temperature differences, because remember, this one was warm, this was room temperature, and this was cold, and how that might make the difference, not just the substance. So make sure you fill out that data chart and make sure afterwards you talk about, was your hypothesis correct? Why or why not? Which physical and chemical changes did you notice with all three of these? And then what state of matter are they in right now? So if you keep this going until something dissolves, you will no longer have a solid in there. So that might be a different answer if you keep it after the 10 minutes. And then make sure you draw kind of like what they look like, because again, if you kept this one solid, you can see in size that there's a huge difference in size in all of these. And then also that smell, if you kind of smell them now, being exposed to those liquids kind of made that peppermint very strong, especially in our Sprite is very strong. So maybe that change might be a different sign of that chemical change, because we had that odor difference. All right, so I hope you guys had so much fun. Don't forget that this one is up to your parents if you want to eat it or try it at home with a different liquid. You might have milk or maybe Coca-Cola and see how that goes. I would love to know how your experiments turned out, so please make sure that you come in and share with me. And then when you are done, parents, there is a QR code in your bag, so please make sure you fill out that survey to say whether you love doing this with your children at home, which I hope you did. I hope everyone had a great time, and have a good night.
I hope that you had a fabulous time completing the science activity with your child and your child's grade team teachers. Did you hear some specific academic vocabulary that you can talk over with your child? Absolutely. Now, on the following slide, you are going to see a QR code for a brief survey. Please access that survey. We value your opinion. You can also access that survey on the QR code from the flyer inside the materials bag. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for Gear Up for Science 2024 On-Demand Parent Event. Thank you in advance for completing the survey. And this is Mrs. Burdick out.